Good afternoon to you, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for Wednesday, June 27th, 2018. I think I'm finally back 100% from that cold that I had. I don't have any coughing. I don't have any tickling in the throat. It's great. The congestion's gone, so I'm 100%. So, hello. Let's get rid of me for now, though, and move on to the tropical outlook, if you will. And in the Pacific here, as part of the discussion, a lot to talk about. They're all lined up here, kind of like a daisy chain of systems ready to go. And they do have identifiers like EP93 or whatever, you know, how we talk about 91L and 99L. I just don't remember what they are, so forgive me. So we'll call this one the westernmost system, and it's at 100%, so it's ready to go. This is the middle system, and then the easternmost system trying to develop thereafter, 20% over the next 5 days. I think that the proximity of these with each other could inhibit any one of these singularly becoming very strong. So we'll have to see how that works out. This is the satellite view from the weathernerds.org site. First of all, that's Daniel still kind of hanging out there as a zombie, if you will. And this is the westernmost system, which is well on its way to becoming a depression. And then more energy trying to bundle here in the southeast Pacific from there. The bottom line in all of this, no threat at all to Mexico, and that includes Cabo San Lucas and vicinity. Another interesting thing to point out, look at all of the low-level clouds, which shows me a more stable air mass, and that air mass, of course, resides above a cooler Pacific surface skin, and it's not, you know, setting off a bunch of heat, etc. So you get these low clouds, a stable atmosphere, and as these systems develop and move into this, they'll die off too, just like Daniel did down the road. Looking at the Atlantic, things are very quiet, and a lot has been said recently. Lots of tweets and blogs and people just talking about, in general, the hostility of the Atlantic. Okay, it's like it's colder than normal. You got all this African dust, to which I say, yes, you are correct. It's there, but it's June, and I'm going to show you this in a minute where you can see it more prevalent. We do have these pretty strong tropical waves. There's one, there's another one, and maybe a third one trying to come off of Africa. They are not going to be able to do much, but the energy is certainly there. And we can see that in the total precipitable water product here from the University of Wisconsin site. There's one tropical wave, there's another one, very strong, and I mean, look at it. It looks like literally a breaking wave as it comes in, and this shows you also, yeah, a lot of dry air around the systems. I get that, but you know what? It's June. It's not like the 1st of September, and we're seeing all of this, and so I don't expect these things to develop. Not here. They'll probably continue across and then seed the southeastern Pacific. But some of these really high amplitude waves like this one, you may get a piece that breaks off and heads this way to seed something up in here. You just never know. That's why you do not ignore these, nor do I ignore the fact that they are fairly robust considering it's late June and not mid-August. And so as the summer progresses, this area will become more unstable, the atmosphere, conditionally more favorable overall. All the parameters will increase. You know, the sea surface temperatures out here are not going to get colder. They're going to get warmer. Even if they're still below the long-term average, they're still going to be warmer over time. You with me? So yeah, these things have a chance to develop later on. Will it mean we're going to have 17 named storms? Probably not. Could we still have 12 named storms and a half a dozen hurricanes? That wouldn't surprise me. And those hurricanes have to go somewhere, so that's what we need to look for down the road. Speaking of looking for, this is the Ensemble Prediction system, and here is last night's initial map with the averages of all the different model runs of the Euro. That's why they call it an ensemble, indicating higher than normal pressure, an anomaly, a positive anomaly over the northwest Atlantic. And again, if we had a hurricane tucked in here somewhere, it would probably come right up the coast with that kind of a pattern. Something to see if that repeats later on in the season, if and when there's a hurricane down here somewhere. We'll just have to wait and see. Elsewhere, hey, look, that's where the tropical wave is. That's where the other tropical wave is. What do you see? Slightly lower pressures, slightly lower pressures. Interesting how that works out. Going on to 24 hours, not much change, but some of the ensemble members, enough of them showing a closed low down there, 10-13 millibars in that kind of a hostile environment. Pretty impressive for late June. It probably won't amount to much, but there it is nonetheless. Going out to 48 hours, still, similar conditions. Finally, by 72 and 96, look what happens. The euro and its ensemble suggesting a very low pressure pattern relative to average. I won't say very low, that might be stretching it, but look, all this blue in here does indicate an overall average of these models showing negative anomalies in the pressure field. And, so that's something to take into consideration. We'll see what that means. Do the sea surface temperatures respond if the trades relax? These are all things that we can look for as you see this pattern change. So moving on out to day 5. Now this is where it gets a little curious. Enough of the members indicating a slightly lower anomaly right there, concentrated, a little bit of a bullseye. Some lower pressures here in the northern Gulf. So maybe some possible development chances in the southwest Atlantic or the northern Gulf. We'll just have to wait and see. Generally speaking, though, you can see as well as I can, the high pressure is anchored much farther to the north and south of there. Lower overall pressures and the tropical waves and the pieces of energy gathering over Africa. I mean, what is that? 1004 millibars over Africa. That's getting it. And, we're getting into the first part of July. So, ever so slightly, the clock ticks away. Finally here by day 6. Interesting feature there. More concentrated here. This just tells me that the window of opportunity for development might be there to open over the next week to 10 days. And you look at things, and I talked about this before, you learn from people. In my case, I've learned a lot from Joe Bastardi, and there are others out there, Ben Knoll, and others. I'm trying to think some of the work that Dr. Ventris, Michael Ventris, and DT, Dave Tolaris at Weather Risk. You learn from these people not how to do it yourself, but what to look for. They have their own jobs in commodities forecasting and other things like that, and I would never want to try to compete with that, but seeing what they look at over time and recognizing patterns, higher than normal pressures way up here over Canada, lower pressures down here over the tropics and subtropics. Yup, that means you got to look to see if something develops. It's kind of like saying you have all these ingredients that mom brought home to bake chocolate chip cookies, but it doesn't mean she's necessarily going to bake the chocolate chip cookies now, does it? And now I'm going to want to go make chocolate chip cookies. But seriously, you got all these ingredients, and just because they're sitting on the counter and in the grocery bags that mom brought home, or your wife or your husband or whomever, that doesn't mean they're going to get made that day. They're just there. The potential that they could get made is certainly there. And so this is the same kind of thing that we look and see, all right, we're not seeing screaming trades across the deep tropics with higher than normal pressures and tropical waves moving west at 25 miles per hour and shearing winds everywhere. No. This is the opposite. This is a more favorable pattern, especially for early July. And so it tells us we should be a little bit more wary. Notice I didn't say worried. That has more letters than does the word wary, W-A-R-Y. Just keep your eyes open and see if something pops out of this pattern. All right, that's all I'm saying. So it's leaning towards that, and we'll see what happens. Do the chips get made and put into the oven and baked, or do they not? We shall see what we shall see. The beauty of it, though, seriously, is we can watch this as it evolves and take it one day at a time, and we'll be on top of it. That's the end game, is that you're aware of what's going on out there. I'm having an earthquake here on my desk. It's okay. Eventually, I'll have enough Patreon supporters and we'll buy a mahogany desk. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't waste money on that. It's more important to put the money towards other things instead of mahogany desks. Speaking of Patreon, real quick, I am on Patreon. It's amazing what that's done. And I've seen a lot of Patreon tweets lately from VidCon, etc., and all these other creators out there doing things that their fans and their supporters appreciate. And it does add up. $2, $10, $100, whatever. It makes people like me able to do what they do. And in this case, we're tackling weather and hurricanes, and it's just incredible. So I am on Patreon. That's the link right down there if you're interested and can afford to do so. Otherwise, I enjoy putting this out there, believe me. And if I was sitting on $10 million in the bank and financially completely free of responsibility, I'd still do this and make it available to everybody because I love it. And I appreciate that you watch. And that'll be my wrap, all right? I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. I do indeed appreciate you tuning in and watching. That being said, we'll do it again tomorrow. If I can get out of here. Let me try that again. Ciao.